Today we'll be creating a Day of the Dead inspired makeup effect with a bit of a twist. I'm Abby Esparza, a creative compositor with over 10 years of experience, and all the resources featured today can be found over on Envato Elements. You can get unlimited downloads of graphics, photos, and fonts, all with super simple commercial licensing. Plus, a no lock-in contract means you can cancel anytime. Go ahead and subscribe now with the link down in the description. And maybe subscribe to the Envato Tuts Plus channel for even more tips, tricks, and of course tutorials. And we're going to get right into it because we have a lot to get done. So I did a very optional face swap to start things off, combining this image with this face, and it ended up being almost completely pointless since I decided on a closer crop in the end. And next, just to cover these kind of prep layers, we have a brightness contrast adjustment layer set to -103 brightness and a 60 contrast. And then I mask the middle with a soft black brush to just give it a slight vignette effect. To finish off the prep work, we have a color balance layer set to +22 blue. I wanted to run through this just really quick so we can get right into that face paint, though you can see this all done as step by step in the written version of this tutorial, linked down below. But we have to get to the face paint because that's the juicy part here. We're going to be creating 3 adjustment layers that will make up our paint. And this is not a one-size-fits-all formula. Image brightness, skin tone, and personal preference will all play a really big role here. But it's all very straightforward and it'll be obvious when you're supposed to make changes. So let's just start with a black and white layer set to the default settings. And this layer will turn our image grayscale. Now a brightness contrast adjustment layer set to around -80 brightness and +55 contrast. This layer controls how bright the paint looks and the finish of the paint. A more matte paint will have a lower contrast, but I'm going for a more metallic look, so I wanted it to have quite a high contrast here. We also want to adjust the blend if settings in the layer style panel, which we can double click on the layer to open that. And then we're going to remove this layer from the highlights so that they stay nice and bright. And we hold Alt to split these toggles here. And that's looking good. Next up, we have a color balance layer, and this layer will control the color of the paint. I want it to be a purpley shade, so I went ahead and increased the red and blue to +100, and removed the green by -100. You could use any color changing layer here, by the way. And with these layers done, we want to group them together and name the group Purple Paint. Then we want to invert that layer mask using Control/Command-I, and this will turn the mask black. And what we're going to do is use this layer mask and a hard round brush to mask in our design. I kind of call this painting using adjustment layers. And for stuff like this, I always recommend references. They help me out a lot personally. I also do recommend a tablet if you're doing a very intricate design. But I'm going to keep things nice and simple and just do something really quick, as I have an alternative option for those without a tablet, so hang in there. However, if you do have a tablet, or are really good with a mouse, now would be a great time to use the symmetry options in Photoshop here. We want to choose a vertical symmetry, then adjust the blue lines to where the middle line is in the middle of the subject's face. It might not be exact, but we want to get it pretty close here. Now, if we paint on one side, the same line will appear on that opposite side. And then once we're done painting, we can return to symmetry and turn that off. And then we can go back and forth between on and off, adjusting the lines as we need to. Like I said, I'm going to do something super simple, as my painting skills are not the strongest. This is looking fine. Once we're happy with our design, we can add a bit more depth and shine using 2 new layers set to overlay. Let's name one light and one dark, and then set both to 75% opacity. And we also want to make sure both these layers are in the purple paint group. First up, let's take a soft round brush, set to black, and on that dark layer, let's paint around the edges of the design, deepening and darkening the color. If you find this layer is a little too dark, or you want to preserve some of the highlights underneath that dark paint, we can adjust the blend if settings. Again, double clicking, and then holding Alt to split the toggles here. And then this is looking pretty good. And that just preserves the highlights underneath that black layer. And we're going to pretty much do the same thing on the light layer, only using whites and increasing the highlights of the makeup instead. And we can also use blend if to keep those areas' darkest shadows nice and dark, like the creases in the skin and the dark eyelashes. And this is looking pretty good. And we could stop here, but let's look at another variation of face paint by adding an off-white base below our purple paint here. So below that purple paint group, create a black and white adjustment layer, just like before, with default settings. And then next, a brightness contrast layer, set to 100 brightness and -50 contrast. Since this paint is white, we want it to be brighter, and I do tend to remove the contrast of a white paint so it doesn't look overly shiny. Follow that layer with a color balance layer, set to a -25 red and a +25 blue. I prefer white paint to have a hint of blue to it, but any hue will work here. And this is going to look a little strong, but we're going to be lowering the opacity of all these layers here in a moment. First, we have to group them together, naming that group white paint. And then we can lower that group's opacity to 40% or so, lowering all those layers at once. Like before, we want to invert the layer mask using Control/Command-I, turning the mask black. And we're going to mask in where we want our white paint. I'm going to use a very large soft brush just to paint white right in the middle of the face. I don't want a solid white face, just kind of a white gradient, if that makes sense. I also don't want that white paint to interfere with any of that purple color, and right now it definitely is. So anywhere there's purple, I don't want there to be any white. Luckily, all we have to do is hold Control/Command, and then click on that purple paint's layer mask. And with our white paint mask selected, we just hit delete. And this will remove all the white from the purple. But we will have to go and erase the eyes by hand. And that's our face paint, but I thought it would be super cool to add some jewel detailing, especially for those who aren't too experienced with painting, don't have a tablet, or just simply want something maybe a little different. I'll be using diamonds. Any jewel will work, but all of my diamonds will be coming from this single stock image. And trust me, there will be a lot. Let's shrink that image down to roughly the size we want the diamond to be. Or maybe a little larger just to give us some wiggle room. Then we'll use the elliptical marquee tool to create a circular selection around a diamond. Any diamond. It's even okay if it has other diamonds overlapping it. You will not be able to notice it in the end. Now let's add a layer mask to that diamond image and place the diamond somewhere in our design. I'm going to have them placed around the eyes. If you need to, you can adjust the layer using layer adjustment brightness contrast. Some diamonds will need to be darker while others will need to be lighter, and some may be able to stay the default lighting. It's all going to depend on the placement. And we're going to copy and paste the same diamond, using it multiple times. Just don't place any one diamond side by side, and try to rotate the diamond or even resize it. And that'll help all the diamonds from looking overly similar to each other. And then once we've used that diamond a few times, we can create a new diamond using the same method as the first, only mask from a different area in the diamond texture. Remember, don't worry about choosing a specific diamond. Once masked, you won't be able to tell at all. Just make sure you choose a different diamond than the previous. Because we're going to repeat this step until all of our round diamonds are placed, around the eyes and maybe a few on the forehead here. Also, I'm going to be using smart objects and working non-destructively. I want to be very, very clear, you do not have to do this. We're going to end up with a lot of these little diamond layers, and it's going to get a bit much for Photoshop to deal with. So if you're looking at all these smart objects and saying, there's no way my computer can handle that, don't worry, just rasterize them as you go. They do not need to be smart objects. I ended up with a total of almost or over 60 diamond layers, I'm not 100% sure, but you're likely going to have a lot too. So I definitely recommend grouping them all together once you're done. Now these are all the round diamonds, but we also have some fun teeth-shaped diamonds here on the lips. For that, we want to create a new layer. And on that layer, we want to create a tooth-like shape using the polygonal lasso tool. And this is looking pretty okay. We're going to fill that shape with any solid color. The color does not matter. It just needs to be a shape you like. Okay? And then we're going to copy and paste the shape along the upper lip of the subject. And we're going to use that same diamond texture and clip it into each shape individually, because we want to move around the texture just slightly so there are no repeating patterns. Then we can group those layers together and duplicate the group. Right-click, flip vertical, and then we can use that duplicate as the bottom row of teeth. But like before, we do probably want to move the clip diamond textures in each tooth slightly so there's no apparent repeating detail. The eye is really good at picking up patterns. Going to finish these diamonds off with a few layers that'll help add a bit of luster and shine. So let's make sure all these diamond layers are grouped together, and that includes the teeth here. And we're going to create and clip a color fill layer set to blue, right into that diamond group. Then we'll set the layer to soft light at 50% opacity. And this is just going to give a very slight blue tone. Right above the fill layer, let's create a new layer set to soft light. Now on this layer, we're going to use white on the diamonds near bright parts of the face, and black on the diamonds near the darker parts of the face, just using a default soft round brush. This layer is super important because not only is it going to add shine, but it'll also help mold the diamonds with the curvatures of the face. And this is looking good, so we can finish everything off with a new layer, set to a screen, and then just add some nice little light blooms. I prefer a 6-point star for my shines, but any light reflection will work, including just like soft blooms. Even a mix of the two is probably best, but just fun little shines. Don't overthink it. And then we can finish everything off with a curves layer, similar to what you see here. This is just a very quick way to add a color grade. And then we can go ahead and add a vibrance adjustment layer, set to plus 30 vibrance and 10 saturation, just to bump up the colors a little bit. And that is all there is to creating a Day of the Dead inspired makeup look. So you can also use the face painting techniques for traditional skull face paint, or any kind of face paint. It's an effect I do quite a lot. It's one of my favorites. But I think that'll do it for today. If that wasn't enough and you're looking to learn even more, why not check out some of the other awesome videos that Envato Tuts Plus has to offer. If you liked this video, consider giving us a like and even subscribing if you haven't already. And don't forget to click the little bell icon to be notified of all new videos, including tips, tricks, and tutorials. Happy designing! See you next time.